The Boston Red Sox playoff hopes continue to diminish as they get swept once again in Milwaukee this week.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's completely free. So make sure that you continue to tune in because Locked On is your team every single day. And hey, it better be free if you're going to listen to a show every day about this mess of a team, because honestly, that's the biggest word I can use to describe the Boston Red Sox right now, is a complete disaster, as they just got swept by the Milwaukee Brewers. So I'm going to be talking about that, as well as the potential firing of somebody. Could the Red Sox make a move to fire one of the coaches? That's going to be touched on today's show, as well as, is it time for Roman Anthony? So all of that being discussed today. But to start with, I just have to express my uttermost disappointment in this Red Sox team, because going into the season, this team had so much hype around it. And I've seen worse Red Sox teams on the field, worse teams that just don't seem to click and things just aren't going well and they just aren't talented and they're losing a ton of games. That's a lot different. This team is not as bad as some of the teams I've seen, and that's saying a lot because there have been some really bad Red Sox teams in my lifetime. But this team, I would say, is definitely the biggest disappointment in terms of the potential that this team had and where they're at right now. And it's just really upsetting because obviously nobody could have anticipated injuries to guys like Triston, Casas, and Alex Bregman. Bregman especially was such a key part of this Red Sox lineup that they really need, and they are in trouble without. But that's not even scratching the surface of the problems with this team, because this Red Sox team was struggling well before that situation happened with Bregman. Even when he was in the lineup, they were struggling to win games, and they currently sit now at fourth place in the American League East. And I really thought that at this point in the season, they were going to be a contending team that was either in first place in the division or maybe closely behind in second, but just so much of that has not happened. And this team is seriously struggling right now with a 27-31 record, which is so not ideal. And there have been countless issues with this team, but the Red Sox got walked off in extra innings 2 games in a row. In the middle game of the series, they fell 5-1 in extras on a grand slam, a walk-off grand slam, which was just so unbelievably the icing on the cake. It's crazy. But the Red Sox were up 1-0 until the 9th inning in that game. And then Aroldis Chapman had his first blown save of the season, and the Red Sox ended up losing in extras. Then they fell 6-5 in extra innings in the series finale. And the biggest key there, the Red Sox had 3 fielding errors in the game, and they also had a base running mistake because Cedam Rafaela literally ran into third base when Connor Wong was still standing there. And I don't know what Cedam was thinking in that moment, if he assumed that the Red Sox were going to send Connor Wong home. So he just had his head down and wasn't really looking, and obviously ran into an out because there was somebody at third base. I don't know, but it was a complete bonehead of a move. And it really shows the lack of baseball IQ that this team has. They look unprepared. They make a lot of fielding errors, and they find different ways to lose every night. And they can't execute in one-run games to save their lives. They are 6-15 in one-run games this year. 6-15, the worst in the majors. They can't find a way to win one-run games. That says a lot about both the pitching and the hitting. And it also says a lot about the coaching staff, that maybe they don't have the right guys in the game in one-run games to be able to execute. And I have been saying for a while now, we need change with the coaching, and change really calls. Desperate times call for desperate measures here. And once again, we were in a situation in this game in which Brayan Bello was pitching. And again, he threw 4 2/3, giving up 3 hits and 2 runs, but one of them was earned because there was an error in the game. 2 walks, 2 strikeouts in the game. He threw 77 pitches, 46 of them for strikes. So obviously not perfect by any means in the strike zone, but definitely had a little bit more hold of his command than we have seen from him in some of his starts. Still needs to cut down on the walks, but I thought generally Brayan Bello brought good stuff into that game. Couldn't get through the 5th inning, but Jarren Duran had a big drop in the outfield that ultimately ended up extending the inning a lot longer than it should have, and he should have been out of the inning earlier. But even still, because he was only at 77 pitches when he got pulled, I would have at least tried to let him finish that 5th inning because of the fact that the Red Sox bullpen is completely depleted right now because of overuse. Lots of guys being used too much because the Red Sox aren't getting length out of their starters, and that has been a big and major problem for this team this year, is that the starters aren't getting length, so then the bullpen just ends up being fatigued, and it's just a vicious cycle of the same thing over and over again with the Red Sox not being able to win games because their bullpen blows a lead because they're exhausted because of how much they've been used. So it's just a spiral effect. And in that situation, even though Bello has had a history this season of not being able to pitch effectively through the 5th inning, I would have tried to let him finish that inning, at least to just save the bullpen a little bit. And then Hunter Dobbins is somebody who came out of the pen for the first time in the game after Brennan Bernardino, who came in and finished the 5th inning and has been one of the Red Sox most reliable relievers this season. Then you had Hunter Dobbins come in, and he pitched 3 innings, giving up 3 hits and 2 earned runs with 3 walks and 1 strikeout. So obviously not the best performance from Dobbins. His command was not there as he issued those walks, and the walks came back to bite him. And this isn't a typical Dobbins performance. Usually he's able to throw a lot more effectively. So it wasn't his day, and it was his first outing of the season out of the Red Sox bullpen. So that could have been a factor, is that because your routine changes a little bit when you're throwing out of the pen compared to when you're pitching in the rotation. So for him, it could have been that he's getting used to having to adapt to switch up his routine a little bit now that he's throwing in the bullpen instead of throwing out of the Red Sox rotation. So that's another factor in this whole thing that played a role in the Red Sox losing this game, was that he didn't have it. Then Aroldis Chapman came in for the 9th and did his job and kept it a tie game for the Red Sox at 4-4. Then the Red Sox ended up scoring a run in the top of the 10th inning, but the Brewers scored 2 in the bottom of the 10th, which was just so disappointing. And Justin Slayton was pitching that bottom of the 10th inning, but the 2 runs that he gave up were unearned because the Red Sox defense around him did not help his cause, and that ultimately caused them to score. So Justin Slayton wasn't penalized for those runs, but unfortunately for him, he still took the loss because he was on the mound at the time when the Brewers walked it off on a walk-off sacrifice fly. So it's just upsetting because this Red Sox team is just one thing after another, and you see the same issues coming up over and over again, and there has yet to be a serious change with this Red Sox team that's been made. But the Red Sox do have an off day today, so will there be a drastic change? That's being discussed next. So I am always looking for new snacks at the grocery store, ones that I can sit and eat late at night when I'm watching TV, because I'm a big late night snack girl. I know that's probably not the healthiest, but I always feel guilty about snacking at night. So I want to get snacks that are healthy, so at least I don't feel as guilty and as bad about myself. So I've started getting Wonderful Pistachios, which is one of the highest protein nuts, and it gives you over 10% of your daily value of protein. And they're absolutely addicting with that pistachio flavor. And there's a lot of different varieties of flavors that you can get. They are the perfect grab and go snack for whether you're on the go or you're just sitting at home watching TV like me. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. The Boston Red Sox are so incredibly frustrating. I don't even know what to say about this team at this point right now. It's just been at the point where the Red Sox are making the same mistakes over and over again. They lack baseball IQ. They make just completely boneheaded mistakes that they shouldn't be making. And the fielding errors were not an issue for a bit, but now those are starting to arise again. The Red Sox are 0-5 since Alex Bregman was placed on the injured list. That's just not promising. He is somebody who helped this team a lot on the field, both from an offensive and defensive standpoint. And it's continuously been talked about the type of leadership that Alex Bregman has shown with this Boston Red Sox team, and the fact that they are where they're at right now, and ever since he's been hurt, they haven't been able to win a game, shows how much of a difference he truly makes in the clubhouse from that leadership standpoint. If I am another Red Sox player right now, I'm realizing that and saying, wow, we really need Alex Bregman here. Obviously, there's nothing they can do about that right now. That's nobody's fault. Nobody could have anticipated that he was going to get injured in that capacity. But the way that the Red Sox are playing right now, they don't have him and his on-field mentorship to help some of these younger players out in terms of knowing the right play to make and the right place to be. He serves as a mini coach almost on the field because he's so experienced and he knows what it's like to win. And it's upsetting for him probably watching this team just completely crumble without him. And when he went down, I said, well, I'm still going to have some hope. Hopefully things can turn around from a pitching standpoint so that the Red Sox can score some runs, but they don't have to score a ton of runs every game because their pitching is able to get the job done. But the problem is, since Bregman has been out, the pitching has also not really been improved and been able to be relied upon in the same way. And it's been a big issue because the usage is a problem and the guys out there are a problem. So the question is, who gets fired first? Do the Red Sox fire somebody? I didn't expect between Tuesday night's game and Wednesday's game there to be a move like that for somebody getting fired, just because it's a really tight turnaround from a night game that especially goes extra innings into an afternoon game the next day. So I didn't really think that there was going to be a move made then. But now that the Red Sox have a day off, they're going to be traveling. Now is the best opportunity for them to say, hey, time to get rid of somebody, and drastic change does need to take place. But who? I'm not seeing it be Alex Cora. I feel like the Red Sox are really loyal to him. They just extended him midseason last year, so they obviously feel like he's a good manager who does good things for this team. And also, he is a great clubhouse guy. I can speak to this firsthand from the players that I have spoken to who have been around Alex Cora, and they can't emphasize enough how big of a clubhouse leader he is and how much he really can connect to the players on and off the baseball field. And the players really value that. The players love Alex Cora as a manager. So I'm not really seeing him be the guy that the Red Sox decide to move on from. But if they were to move on from the coach, I think we need to be looking at a guy like Peter Fatse or Andrew Bailey. I would say, if I had to pick more of a priority, I would say Pete Fatse first, because of the fact that the Red Sox offense already was striking out a ton, and the overall plate approach of this team as a whole was horrific, even with Alex Bregman here. And now that Alex Bregman's gone, I don't trust that Fatse is a guy who can actually adjust the offensive game plan in his absence to make it work. Because if he has already shown that he hasn't really been able to adapt and change things about the overall offensive scheme, why should I feel confident that he'll be able to do that now when their most consistent bat of the season has gone down with an injury? So it's just been tough, because the way that things have been for this team as of lately, I don't really see there to be an upward trajectory until they make that move and until they get rid of somebody and say, okay, somebody on this coaching staff needs to be fired. I think you could also make an argument for Andrew Bailey being the first one, because the pitching staff and the way that they've been going about their outings just haven't been as effective as they should be. I mean, for example, the starters not going deep enough into games. I feel like that could be a pitching approach thing, because they move away from their fastballs and they utilize their off-speed stuff. They definitely, as a whole, have mixed the fastball in a little bit more this year. So maybe Andrew Bailey realized going into this season that in order to keep their arms healthy, they need to incorporate the fastball again a little bit more. And I worried about his system going into last year and the health of these guys, because if you're throwing a lot of off-speed pitches like that, it really puts a lot of wear and tear on your arm. And I think now we could be starting to see some of the effect and aftermath of that, where the Red Sox pitchers are fatigued and aren't able to throw as effectively when it gets deeper into games because their arms are starting to get tired. But the problem is that there hasn't been a real change in that regard. They won't sit here and say, okay, what exactly are we doing wrong? And where do we need to get to in order to get this team back at a level of productiveness that we need from them? And I don't really trust that those conversations are happening internally with the front office. I feel like the front office right now is trying to roll out the injury card and say, guys should be coming back from injury, will be okay, but none of that matters if they can't execute. And obviously some of this is out of their control, like Casas and Bregman's injuries, but they don't really have first base depth. Rafael Devers is not going to move to first base. They definitely seem open to moving Christian Campbell to first base, but the problem is that since he's been struggling at the plate as of late, moving his position within the outfield or the infield now is tough, because he already plays both. He plays in the infield a lot more, as second base is his primary position right now. But the Red Sox have had him play in the infield and in the outfield both this season, because he has gotten reps out in left field and a little bit in center field too. So they're already mixing him around a lot. So the problem with moving him over to first base is they're basically forcing him to learn that position and play that position well. But while they're doing that, he's still expected to play well at second base and in the outfield if needed. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie. And Alex Cora said before the season started that the idea with the rookies is when they get called up, they want them to contribute, but they're not going to be called upon to basically carry a baseball team and be the big firepowers offensively that the Red Sox need. But Marcelo Mayer was batting fourth in yesterday's day game. And maybe Alex Cora wanted to change things up a little bit and say, what we have going right now isn't working, so let's try something different. But it's a lot to ask of a player like Marcelo Mayer, who's, playing in his fourth or fifth major league game, and asking him to go out there and bat fourth in the lineup because he has to pull the weight for other guys. So the roster construction as of right now is really showing a lot of glaring weaknesses. And if everybody was healthy, maybe things would be a little bit different, because then they wouldn't have to rely on some of these youngins to carry the squad. But with where the Red Sox are at right now, those guys are helping to carry the load. And that's a lot of pressure for rookies. So there's just a spiral effect of all these different things going on. And until somebody gets fired, I don't really see it going any differently. Craig Breslow is on the clock now to make that kind of move. I don't see them firing Alex Cora. I don't think that's a thought that's even crossing their mind. I think it would be more likely a position coach like the pitching coach or the hitting coach, bringing in a fresh face in one of those roles that could help provide a little bit more of a vision that could work in terms of where the Red Sox are at and getting them to where they need to be, which according to them before the season started was a playoff spot. So if they're that serious about it and they really want to be a playoff team, they would make those changes sooner rather than later. So I would not be surprised if at some point today you hear of a big drastic move being made, because they need to make a statement move to show that they're still invested. Otherwise, fans are going to go absolutely nuts. And fans would also go absolutely nuts in a good way if it was announced that the Red Sox were calling up Roman Anthony. I'm going to talk about what the hesitancy still might be there next. Don't forget that Locked On Red Sox is available Monday through Friday on YouTube or any other podcast platform where you can get the latest in all things going on with this baseball team. And also, while I do appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today, for your second listen, make sure you check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great show because it keeps you caught up in all things going on across the league. So if you want to know what's going on with teams other than the Red Sox, which could be a nice, refreshing thing after this, then make sure that you check out that show so you don't have to scroll through ESPN constantly checking scores when you can get it right there. So make sure that you tune in on any podcast platform right after you finish listening to this. As the Red Sox continue to lose more and more games, it's getting to the point where they have no choice but to make a serious change. And the question now becomes, what will that serious change be? Are they going to can somebody from the coaching staff? Are they going to can somebody from the front office? Or are they going to make a roster change by calling up top prospect Roman Anthony, who is the number one prospect in all of baseball right now and is having a historic season in AAA? And it's been really frustrating for fans because everybody's asking, why won't they call him up with how well he's performing in AAA right now and with how much the Red Sox are struggling offensively? So in the midst of this challenging season for the Red Sox, they as an organization find themselves at a crossroads with this because the fans are clamoring for that glimmer of hope. And that hope, a lot of people do feel, lies in the bat and glove of Roman Anthony. And especially because of the fact that his performance in AAA has been sensational. As he continues to dominate the minor leagues, the Red Sox struggles in the majors have only intensified the fans' outcry for his promotion. He's not just any prospect. He is the icon for future success for the Boston Red Sox. With an impressive 981 OPS through 48 games in AAA, he has truly showcased his readiness for the major leagues. His ability to drive in runs is definitely there, and he also has a really powerful sense of defensive prowess that makes him a complete player, one that any team would want. Yet as the Red Sox decide to go through this season with a lot of frustration still, and in the midst of a 5-game losing streak, Anthony's still down in AAA. So here's the dilemma that the Red Sox have on their end. The dilemma for the Red Sox and their decision not to promote Anthony has really puzzled and frustrated people, especially given the team's offensive struggles and the absence of Alex Bregman due to his injury. And Craig Breslow actually came on record and cited development opportunities in the minor leagues as the reason for keeping him down in AAA. But this explanation really hasn't done much for anybody and has not changed the fact that this fan base is really impatient in saying we want Roman. The Red Sox outfield right now does boast capable starters in Jarren Duran, Saddam Rafaela, and Wilyer Abreu, but Anthony's superior hitting skills are evident even if he has yet to face major league pitching. And there's no doubt that his bat would help fix the lineup, especially because Saddam Rafaela is so inconsistent at the plate. Wilyer Abreu is in a bit of a stretch right now. He did hit a home run yesterday, but overall, as of late, he's been struggling at the plate. But the underlying concern, which Breslow hasn't directly stated, appears to be the potential loss of a year of service time should Roman excel in the majors too quickly, which would push his free agency eligibility up by a year. So while the strategy of manipulating service time is not new in baseball, it remains an issue. And for a team like the Red Sox, who are facing an uphill battle right now, it could make a lot of sense to call him up right now. But the Red Sox want to keep him down in AAA so they don't use that time now to call him up and lose the extra year of control with him later on, according to Major League Baseball's rules. But a potential shakeup really does seem inevitable for the Red Sox right now, and there's added pressure to make those kinds of changes in the near future because something just is not working here. And the spotlight on Roman Anthony's absence from the lineup only intensifies with each passing loss that the Red Sox have. In the end, this whole situation between Roman Anthony and the Red Sox is more than a story of a promising young player who's waiting for his true shot in the big leagues. This is a reflection of the broader challenges and decisions that baseball teams face right now in an era where the balance between player development, financial considerations, and competitive aspirations has never been more delicate. So the Red Sox are torn between, do we call him up now or do we let him continue to develop in AAA to really make sure he's this absolutely phenomenal special player when he gets called up? As the season progresses, the Red Sox's handling of Anthony's potential debut will not only impact their immediate fortunes right now in terms of how they do the rest of this season, but could really also set a precedent for how emerging stars are introduced to the highest level of the game. And the thing with Breslow is that he hasn't really been directly answering the question. He really has just been vague when he's asked about it and says that he could use some more work in the minors before they call him back up. And this is something that we look at and we say every single day that Roman Anthony spends in AAA at this point is a day that the Red Sox miss out on what could be a much needed spark to their lineup and a chance to start building toward that future success that I talked about. So it's definitely frustrating to see that, and it's frustrating to not feel like we fully understand why the Red Sox haven't called him up yet. And I feel like they are at the point now where they're backed into a wall and they have to make some kind of change. And the question is, what is that change going to be? Is that change going to be they finally cave and they call up Roman? Or is the change going to be that they fire one of the coaches? Maybe it's a mix of both. Maybe they say, okay, Pete Fatse and Andrew Bailey are not getting their respective jobs done, so we should move one of them and replace them with somebody who maybe has a knack for something else and could improve this team a little bit better. Or then maybe we say, okay, Roman Anthony is lighting it up in AAA right now, and he deserves the opportunity to come up to the majors. So let's call him up and let's also simultaneously fire the hitting coach or the pitching coach. Let's do both at the same time and see if any of those works out well for the Red Sox. So I definitely could see them leaning in either direction there or doing a mix of both. But either way, the Red Sox are now backed into a wall and they are forced to make some kind of change, because what's going to happen is the longer the Red Sox prolong this and the more they go without making a change, the more it's really going to fire on Breslow and look really bad on him. And people are going to start to feel like he's not invested. He doesn't care. And then the Red Sox ownership group and front office are going to have a target on their backs once again when people backed off of John Henry and the front office a little bit after the offseason because they went out and they spent money and they got some quality pieces to put on this team to improve this year. And the fact that they haven't really improved and they actually seem like they're in a worse spot right now because they just aren't winning baseball games. Now, if Craig Breslow sits around and doesn't make a drastic move, fans will start to turn on the team and say, all right, well, the front office doesn't care. This team is just going to continue to lose, so why should I watch? So they really are forced to do something. And when it comes to that extra year of service time with Roman Anthony, this might be time for them to say, whatever, it's fine. The Red Sox need him more than ever right now because shakeups are necessary in baseball. It's a long season and teams go through slumps, although this is more than a slump for the Red Sox because they are playing very bad baseball right now. They were playing average baseball before. They haven't really been at a point where they've consistently played really good baseball throughout the course of this season so far yet. And it just feels like with each passing day, it's easier and easier to give up on this team and feel like they have no shot moving forward of being a contending team. So something needs to happen. Is Roman Anthony going to get called up? If he does, I thoroughly expect that means the Red Sox are going to really push for Christian Campbell being moved to first base, and then they make room in the infield for Cedar Rafaela. Maybe they have him play second, or maybe they move Trevor Story back to second and have Rafaela play shortstop with Mayer still at third base, and then they send Nick Sogard back down to AAA, and then you have an outfield that has Abreu, Duran, and Roman Anthony in it. That is what I think that type of scenario would look like if the Red Sox were to go that route, and fans are really screaming for it at this point. But the problem is that nobody really knows how confident the Red Sox are right now in Roman Anthony getting called up, because they haven't been super clear about it. And I think they're doing that on purpose because they don't want to give false hope to the fans, and they don't want to make promises of things that could happen that they aren't sure of actually being a thing that could happen. So I'm excited to see Roman Anthony. I think that he has more than earned his opportunity to play at the major league level. He's doing everything that's been asked of him in AAA. He's such a hard worker, and he's incredibly humble, which is something I really like about the kid. And I've really enjoyed being able to get to know him a little bit better this year in Worcester, and be able to get a sense of the type of player and person that he is. And he will work really hard, and he will be the guy that will every day be available to do whatever the team needs him to do. So I hope he gets his opportunity and comes up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do with this team. But this is just a tough team to watch right now, and it just really feels so dreadful having to watch them every single day. And that's really sad to say, because I love baseball and I love the Boston Red Sox, and I'm still going to watch, but they better turn things around soon. And you can help me out by, like I say, keeping the faith. Just try your absolute best. I know it's hard right now, but keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.